I've been a minimalist for 11 years and it's without a doubt improved my life immeasurably, and I can't go back to not being a minimalist. It's just become a part of me. But I made the title of this video 10 lessons from 10 years of being a minimalist because 11 was just too many and I had to downsize it. My minimalist journey started in 2014, the summer before my freshman year of college. I figured that moving to San Diego, which is an 8 to 9 hour drive from my hometown of Sacramento, was the perfect opportunity for me to get rid of the stuff that just naturally accumulated over 18 years of existing, since I had to fit everything I needed to study, to be hygienic, and to not be bored into a 2002 Honda Odyssey. What's up, I'm Zach. I'm not an alcoholic, and I am a 28-year-old minimalist turning 29 in 2 weeks. Getting rid of stuff feels good. When I was doing that first purge to move 9 hours across the state, my mindset was how much can I get rid of, and how little did I actually need to be comfortable. And I got rid of a lot of stuff. Most of the stuff that I had, and I realized that I only use about like 20% or so. And when I get rid of stuff, it feels like I clearly learned something from every item that I get rid of, because at the time I thought I needed it, I thought I wanted it, and maybe I even did. But I see that I've grown as a person and it just no longer fits into my life. And that's what makes minimalism and getting rid of stuff so satisfying. And of course, there's like the meme of, I, a minimalist, fit everything I needed to live for a year inside a backpack that fits inside my butthole. But I literally had to fit everything that I needed for the next 3 to 4 years for college into a 2002 Honda Odyssey that my parents still drive to this day. And there is something really satisfying about seeing everything that I need for life fit into such a small space, but feeling completely content and knowing that it is enough. But you also don't know how much is enough until you know how much is too little. 2 years ago, I experimented with seeing how much is too little for underwear. Most people have a month's worth of underwear, and at the time I was moving to live with my then girlfriend, now wife, to Michigan so she could finish her master's degree at Michigan State. And this is gonna sound so stupid, but at the time I was like, well, I'm very comfortably living with 7 pairs of underwear, and it seems maybe a little excessive at times. Maybe I could get away with 4 pairs of underwear. And it turned out that it felt like I was doing laundry like every 3 days, because that's just how the underwear math works out. And there would be even times, because it was winter in Michigan, where I would hang dry my underwear and then it wouldn't even be dry by the time I need it. So my choices became flip the underwear inside out, dry it with a hair dryer, or wear damp underwear. But I found out when I really get into minimalism, or really get into anything, I could become really obsessed with it and take it to an extreme. And sometimes that extreme, once you go past it, you realize, okay, this is too much. And then I need to reel it back and then find where exactly the line for the happy medium is. And that's how I figured out how much is enough. Sentimental items are really tricky. My wife Chloe and I, we frequently call the period between 2004 and 2014 the photo black hole, because at the time everybody was using these little point and shoot cameras, which, by the way, I'm super glad that my parents still had around, and I am now using it. And people, mostly moms, were not very good of backing up photos to a hard drive, and then the computer breaks, and then that entire period of 10 years or so of family photos and videos and memories just gets wiped away. And when I think about that black hole of family photos that just exists worldwide, it legitimately makes me sad, because these are important things. Capturing these moments were important enough for us, for moms, to go to Costco, to buy a camera, to then lug on a family vacation, to then take it out when their kids or their husband is doing something cute or stupid or both. And the fact that a lot of us around the world do not have this period of time, or is missing a big chunk, it really shows that sentimental items are important. And a lot of minimalists say that just get rid of your sentimental items, you don't need it, they're inside you, they're a part of you. But look, my grandma has like really bad dementia. She doesn't remember me, she doesn't remember who my parents are. And a lot of times she is just like hanging out with a bunch of strangers and asking if she can go home when she's already in the same home that she's been living in for the past 10 years. And something like singing her favorite song or showing her a picture of herself can be something that triggers her memory to the point where she remembers who my parents are, she remembers where she is, and she remembers who she is. So I find that blanket getting rid of sentimental items, even if they don't spark joy or just take up a lot of space, it's really tricky because they may not have value now, they may not spark joy now, but they can definitely have a use in the future, and they only grow in value over time as we get older and want to reflect on those memories and be brought back to that time in our lives. There was a binder that my mom had stored in my closet, and this was maybe like 6 years ago or something, and it had all of my awards from like kindergarten through 6th grade, and I had a lot of awards, and also had some childhood photos in there. And I figured I should just take pictures of all this stuff and get rid of it so I have more closet space. Because at the time I was like, I don't need this, nobody cares about this. But now I am kind of regretting getting rid of a couple of those childhood photos that were tucked away inside that binder that my mom cared. Yeah, I was dumb. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Now I'm regretting it because those things are irreplaceable. It's like if you get rid of a frying pan or a t-shirt, you just go buy another frying pan or t-shirt. But the sentimental items, I would say use your own best judgment if you want to get rid of it because they are irreplaceable. And holding on to those memories and those feelings that goes along with that stuff isn't a sign of weakness or holding on to the past. It is reliving who you are. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Minimalism looks different for everybody. I know people are trying to play the social media algorithm of having a particular minimalist look where they can fit everything into a carry-on luggage or a backpack or only own 100 things, for the clickbait. But minimalism is really different for everybody. It's basically figuring out how much is enough for you. How much is enough for me? And that's going to be different for everybody because we're different people. Why are we trying to form our lives around an airline policy? Me and Chloe's apartment, it's a clean and tidy apartment, but I don't think you would exactly call it just like a blanket minimalist apartment. We live in a 1-bedroom, about 700 square foot apartment, and we figured this is enough for us for at the point of life that we're in. But it still looks like we live here. It doesn't have that particular everything is white or off-white or beige minimalist style. We wanted our apartment to be a space where when people come into it, they can feel our personalities. And despite people romanticizing like, I found myself after getting rid of all my stuff, all the stuff was getting in the way, and I have transcended the need for things and enlightened myself to minimalism by fitting everything I need into a backpack. Bro, drumming is one of my favorite things in the world. I am not fitting a drum kit into a backpack, and I'm not just gonna be body drumming for the rest of my life. Being tidier is a lot easier than being messy. I've definitely become a lot tidier after, I want to say becoming a minimalist, but that's not really something you do. You don't like come out of a cocoon and suddenly you're a minimalist. But I've become a lot tidier after consciously practicing minimalism because I know that everything I have, I care about, and that I want to take care of it, and I want to put everything back in its place when I'm done with it. Everything has a home, and because of that, when something, oh, don't show address. When something doesn't have a home, I immediately see it, and I see it as garbage, and I get rid of it. Or if something is out of place, I immediately see it. I guess that's just the main thing. I see it. This is a dirty pan. It goes in the sink. I will wash that after I'm done with this video. Actually, no. I'm gonna wash it right now. I love all of my things. I take care of them, and I always want them to be back in their place. I have a designated place for everything, so being tidy has really just become just natural instinct, and I don't really have like chore days because I'm just always cleaning up and taking care of my home just as I go throughout my day. One of the benefits of working from home. It would actually take more effort for me mentally to leave that pan out knowing that it is dirty and on the stove rather than just cleaning it. This becomes the natural state of things, and it's beautiful. Shopping isn't a hobby. I'm from Sacramento, California. There's not a whole lot to do here other than to eat, drink, and go shopping. So growing up, a lot of times my parents would just take me and my brother out to the mall and treat that as our family activity, which is fine, but it does get kind of exhausting when you do that every single week. And I can very easily get obsessed with researching things and trying to find the best thing for what I need. Most recently, just this week, literally, I was going deep into the rabbit hole of film cameras, and I wasted probably a total of 4 work days just researching film cameras, watching videos on YouTube about film cameras and photography, and I realized this isn't a hobby. Shopping for a guitar is not a hobby. Playing guitar is a hobby. And a lot of times when we don't know what to do, we just default to shopping, especially in America where we're extremely raised to be consumers. But whenever I go shopping for my hobbies rather than actually doing my hobbies, I just feel really drained and like I wasted my time when I could have been doing the thing that I actually enjoy. Better isn't always better. For the past 4 or 5 years or so, this big honkin' camera, which is like a prosumer grade camera with a big professional lens and microphone, has been my setup for making most of my videos. And only recently did I realize I don't like shooting with this. This is way too big. And this is a really common setup that you'll see a lot of YouTubers use because it makes videos look really good and sound really good while still being relatively portable. But then I realized that I hated shooting on this setup because it's so freaking big and that I'm missing out on a lot of video opportunities just because it's so inconvenient to carry this around and to use and to set up. Even when I'm just at home, it's like, I don't want to set up a tripod. I just want to hold the camera and walk around and like talk about stuff. And because most people are so enamored with having the best video and photo quality, people don't really talk about the drawbacks of the setup, is that it's really freaking big and it's really freaking expensive and I hate using it. Just this week, this is actually the first video with this camera, I'm just using this tiny little nugget and I'm enjoying the process of making videos way more than using this giant honking camera, even though it's kind of like one of the standard setups that people use for YouTube. Minimalism is different for everybody. Just because something is technically the best and produces great results doesn't mean that we'll like it, and that's what minimalism is all about. Do I like using the thing? And even though this tiny little camera costs about, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do the math, 1/10 as much as my big camera setup, I still just prefer using this thing so far. If you wouldn't pay full price for it, don't buy it. And that doesn't mean only buy things at full price and don't buy things when they're on sale. I've just found that if I wouldn't pay full price for it, I don't want it enough to actually let it into my life, because I got a really good deal on this drum kit. This is like my dream drum kit, and I got it for maybe less than half the price of what it would go for retail. And I bought it just because it was a really good deal. This is a drum kit that I would never actually consider buying at full price. And while it is an amazing drum kit and I love playing it, it just didn't fit my life at all. Like, even when I was living in a suburban single-family house with my parents, this thing is just way too big. It did not fit in my bedroom, which is where I play drums. And it also shook the whole house because it was just too epic. And it's a beautiful drum kit. DW is like one of the most desirable brands in drums. It's made in California. It's really well built, North American maple, all of that on the spec sheet. Sounds so good. But now that I have this tiny, made in Taiwan, $400 something drum kit, this drum kit costs as much as like one drum as the other drum kit. And especially now that I live in an apartment and Chloe and I plan on getting rid of the car, and I have to bike places with this thing. This thing sounds killer, for the size, and I bought it full price. I am super happy with it, and I would buy it again in a heartbeat at full price. And I found out that this is the feeling that I really need to be looking for when I am letting something into my life. Because if I don't have this feeling, it's probably just gonna sit in a corner for most of the time I have it and just wait to be sold. By the way, my DW Performance Series is for sale on Facebook Marketplace in Sacramento. Hit me up. Physical media rocks. The other night, Chloe and I were sitting on the couch and trying to watch a Taiwanese drama that she grew up watching. It's one of her favorite shows, and she wanted to share this with me. And I wanted to learn about the things that are important to her. Then we got through maybe 3 episodes on Netflix, and then the rest of the episodes, for whatever reason, the music is way too freaking loud, and we can't even hear the dialogue. It's unwatchable. Apparently, that's just a problem that Netflix has with many shows on their service, and so we just had to drop the idea of watching that show because we couldn't find it from a website from the East, if you catch my drift, with English subtitles. And that's just really not something that happens with physical media, because when they care enough to actually put it on a disc, they take the time to make sure that it's good quality rather than just farting it out and throwing it on the live streaming service for 6 months. And that's another thing about owning physical media, is that nobody can tell you when you can and can't watch the first 100 episodes of SpongeBob. It's like, oh, well, I watched the first 30 episodes on Amazon 2 years ago, but now it's not on Amazon anymore and they're missing some episodes. It's like, no, just, this was $30, okay? And this is the best experience compared to streaming. I find the really fun part about media is sharing it with other people, because we like these things because they speak to us. And when we share the things that we like, whether it's TV shows or books or music, we are sharing a part of ourselves with other people. And the best way to share a part of ourselves is to actually physically have it. That's like why I have vinyl records. I actually very frequently, like on a regular basis, sit down and listen and do nothing else, because these things are art. So much work went into every single vinyl record, and I think it's a beautiful thing when I sit down and do nothing else and just listen to it and find things in the music that I wouldn't have otherwise if I was just streaming it in a car as I'm stuck in traffic. And although physical media isn't like super practical from a minimalist point of view, because you can get most of the same content just on streaming and it takes up no space in your home, but I find that these things are important enough for me that I want them to take space in my home. I want them to be on the shelf or in the box, and I want people who come to my home to interact with them so that they can understand me better. And the media just becomes a lot more shareable. Like, this is an album that came out last year from a band that I really like. They're a smaller band called Makari, and I pre-ordered this vinyl record. And my friend T and I were going to one of their shows the following week. And I actually got this record 2 days before it released on streaming. And I invited T over. He's never listened to the band before. We sat down for 45 minutes and we listened to this record and we talked about it. And that is something that I feel like just does not happen with streaming. If I invited him to come over because it dropped on Spotify, it's like, no, I'll just listen to it myself while I'm driving to work. It's just not the same magic that happens when something is digital instead of physical. Because when something is physical, like Chloe's complete collection of the Nana manga, it signals to other people that this thing is extremely important to me. I spent money on it and I care enough about it to have it live and have its own space on a shelf in my home. And speaking of Nana, the first time I was exposed to Nana was again with my friend T. He bought the Blu-ray complete series of Nana, which I've never heard of, and he just roughly knew that it was like a really good anime / manga. But it turns out it is Chloe's absolute favorite manga and anime. And we watched the complete series together. The same thing would not have happened if Chloe just said, I really like Nana, you should go check it out. Where do I watch it? Crunchyroll? Yeah, I'd watch it on Crunchyroll. I would never watch it on Crunchyroll. The fact that it was physical and in my face and I could touch it made me want to watch it. And I discovered how great it was. It was so great that Chloe then, after watching anime, bought the complete series and I read it right after watching an anime. And it was just as good the second time I read it and could have it in my hands. If she just told me, oh, go find the PDF online of the Nana series, I'm not doing that. But I can see how important it is when it's in my hands, and I can see how important it is when people took so much time, love, care, and attention to detail to make this so that I could hold it. Yeah, you can make your home look more like an IKEA model bedroom by not owning the complete series of Nana, but there's just something about physical media that has a little bit of magic to it that makes people care. By the way, this is the first complete series of manga that I read. Like, it's great. Minimalism is a lifelong process. You don't instantly become a minimalist, and I don't think you'll ever be done with minimalism just because of how good it is and practical and how much easier it makes life. But I've learned that there will be points in my life where I have next to nothing. And there will be points in my life where I have an entire apartment full of stuff. And last year, Chloe and I moved into this apartment because we had just gotten married and we had to buy about $14,000 worth of stuff, just starting from zero. And that's okay, because that's the point in life that we're at. Minimalism isn't like checking Xbox achievements off of a list. It's always evolving, and it evolves with us because it's there to serve us. And people joke, and sometimes don't joke, that minimalism is a cult because some people take it way too frickin' seriously and way too far, where it starts to consume them, and I even experienced that, like having 4 pairs of underwear. But the line is where it stops serving us and we start serving it. But as long as I treat minimalism as a process that is making my life better, that's all I gotta do.